What if I told you that every major financial crisis follows almost the exact same script? Different year, different country, different headlines, but the pattern, almost identical. A bubble forms, banks get reckless, fear spreads, people panic, governments step in, and somehow almost nobody sees it coming until it's too late. From the collapse of the Dow Jones Industrial Average in 1929, to the housing crash that took down Lehman Brothers in 2008, to the sudden bank failures that shook Silicon Valley Bank in 2023, the faces change, but the system doesn't. If you want to understand how money really moves and how to protect yourself before the next shock, hit like and subscribe right now. This channel breaks down the patterns they don't teach in school. Every crisis begins with optimism. There's always a big story, a new technology, a hot market, a once-in-a-generation opportunity. In the 1920s, it was stocks. In the early 2000s, it was real estate. In other eras, it was railroads, dot-com startups, crypto, or commodities. Credit expands. Banks lend aggressively. Investors borrow to buy more assets. Prices rise, then they rise faster. And people start believing one dangerous sentence. This time is different, but it never is. When asset prices detach from reality and fundamentals no longer justify valuations, you're not in a healthy boom, you're in a bubble. What makes bubbles truly dangerous is leverage. Debt amplifies everything. Banks don't just lend depositors money, they create credit and expand their balance sheets. Before 2008, mortgage-backed securities were treated as safe. Before 1929, investors used margin debt to buy stocks with borrowed money. Before 2023, some regional banks were overloaded with long-term bonds and exposed to rising interest rates. When conditions shift, whether rates rise, growth slows, or liquidity dries up, leverage turns from fuel into fire. Small cracks suddenly become system-wide fractures. Then comes the most fragile stage, the bank run. A bank run doesn't begin with spreadsheets, it begins with fear. During the Great Depression, people physically lined up outside banks after confidence collapsed. In 2008, financial institutions stopped trusting each other almost overnight. In 2023, withdrawals moved at the speed of smartphones. Modern bank runs don't need long lines outside buildings. They happen digitally, in hours or even minutes. Banks are built on confidence. When trust disappears, liquidity vanishes. And that's when authorities are forced to step in. The bailout phase is almost predictable. Governments inject liquidity, central banks cut rates or expand their balance sheets. Emergency programs are introduced to prevent contagion and stabilize the system. The goal is always the same: restore confidence and stop the collapse from spreading. But there's a hidden consequence. Every rescue creates moral hazard. And when markets believe they will be saved, risk-taking grows in the next cycle. Cheap money returns, asset prices rise again, and slowly the system resets for another bubble. If you zoom out, the structure becomes clear. Easy credit leads to asset inflation. Leverage builds quietly in the background. A shock hits. Panic spreads. Policymakers intervene. Then expansion begins again. This isn't random chaos. It's structural behavior.